Hi folks, Tim here, and welcome back to From 8 to 38, the Chronicles of a Young Entrepreneur. And in this chapter, we are going to discuss envy, and in particular, business envy. And I know that might be kind of a funny subject to go into on a young entrepreneur series, but it's something that I had to deal with very, very early on in my business life. And it's something that, if you're not careful, tends to rear its ugly head even later on in your business life, in your business career. So one of the reasons I wanted to discuss this is, over the years, a lot of people have said, and I've heard it said about whether it be my business or a friend's business or even somebody I don't know, the phrase, "boy, it must be nice," is used an awful lot. And it's a phrase that I really don't love. I have used it myself in the past, but it's one that we need to be very, very careful about. So a lot of times we can look at something and say, boy, it must be nice to have a new truck. It must be nice to have this new lawnmower, or maybe an excavator, a dump truck, a bulldozer, or if you're in a different field, maybe you're a mechanic and somebody's got some new tools, or somebody just got a new lift. Whatever the case may be, we're all workers. We all work with our hands. So many times it's not stuff as far as toys that matter. It's the tools that we get envious of. So that's what I really want to talk about today. So back when I first started many years ago, when I was walking through my parents' neighborhood and pushing that push mower down the road, a couple houses up, in one of the places I had started working, they had a landscaper there who just mowed the lawn for them. And at the time, he had an old Skag, I believe it was. And what he had was, it was basically a walk behind with a seat on the back. And that seat, underneath it, had a wheel with a yoke. And you would turn the machine by turning this handlebar yoke thing. And I remember looking at that and saying, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have that? And I don't know if I was necessarily envious at the time, or just looking at it and saying, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have that? Well, now that we've grown, the business has grown, have become more successful, some people have said, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have some of what you have? And yeah, I agree. It's really nice to have what we have here. It's really nice to have the wall of saws behind me, or the rack of weed whackers on the wall. It's nice to have a reliable truck and reliable mowers and all these other things. But you need to be really careful, and it's something that, I'm preaching to myself here a little bit. You need to be careful to not be envious of what other people have. And sometimes what happens is, you see all the good. You see all the good stuff that comes with having all the nice stuff, right? And you don't think about sometimes what goes into it. So don't be envious of someone else. There's an old saying about the grass always being greener on the other side. And many times the grass is greener on the other side, or so it seems, until you get over to the other side and it opens up a whole new world of problems that you have to deal with. So when I was younger and just starting out, I didn't have anybody working for me. And I could only mow just so many lawns, because I only had just so much time in a day. So I could only mow a certain amount of lawns and weed whack and blow everything off when we were done. And now I've got Owen working for me, and it's absolutely wonderful. I'm very happy to have him. But having an employee is something that we've always wanted. And it was one of the things we said, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have? And not in an envious way, just we're working towards this. So that's one thing I'm going to jump off the employee track for a second and say it's something that you're working towards. So when you look at something that someone has and you want it, it's not envious necessarily. I wouldn't consider it envious to say what they have is something I want. It's something I'm willing to set a goal and work really hard to achieve that goal, to move this business to that level. So that's not envious. That is really taking to heart what has to happen to advance your business to that level. The wrong attitude would be, boy, what they have is really nice. I really want it. I deserve it without doing any extra work for it. So now back to the employee thing with Owen. We added him as a full-time employee, I think it was just over a year ago now, and it's been really, really nice. However, now that I have an employee and I'm on that other side of, the grass is always greener on the other side, I'm on that employee side now with the grass, and it's opened up a whole new level of things that we have to deal with. So we've got workers' comp that we have to deal with now, different insurances we have to carry. We have to make sure that there's enough work in the queue to keep him busy 40 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year. So there's a lot of different things that I didn't have to think about keeping somebody busy when it was just me. I only had to think about keeping myself busy. Now I need to keep myself busy and somebody else busy, because if you look at something like that, your employee is relying on you as the business owner to stay busy enough and to provide enough work so that they can pay their bills. Now, whether there's somebody younger who doesn't have a lot of bills or somebody older with a family, it could even go so far as you need to look at it as if the guy is working hard or the gal is working hard for you, then it's your responsibility. You told them you would hire them 40 hours a week. It's now your responsibility to make sure there's 40 hours a week worth of work, because not only are they relying on you, their family at home is relying on you to come up with that amount of work. So the grass is always greener. Yeah, sometimes it seems that way. Now that we're on the employee side, look back and say, boy, the grass is greener over there without the employees sometimes. So business envy is definitely a real thing. It's something that happens a lot. It's something to really be guarded against, and something to, make sure that it doesn't happen to you and you don't obsess over it. And we could go on and on about that. At the point that we are right now with our business, I'm very, very happy where we are, but it's very easy to look over at the next guy over and say, wow, he's got 2 employees or 3 employees or 5 employees, 10 employees. They're running 2 mow crews or 3 or 4 mow crews. Well, I'm looking at that and I'm saying that's where we want to advance to. That's one of our goals. One of our goals is to get to the point of where we're running 2 mow crews all summer long, all spring, summer, and fall long. That's something that we're working on building the business to. And this comes down to something that we talked about all the way in the beginning, which is hard work and dedication and setting goals. So that's a goal that we've set. I haven't really set a time on that goal. It's just a goal that's out there that we are working towards. Now, a few years ago, Abby and I sat down and we did some budgeting, and we came up with a number of just how much we had to gross in a month. And that was, at that time, almost 4 years ago. So Daniel was born, I think he was maybe about 3 months old when we came up with this budget, and said, this is how much we need to gross per month. And then, of course, broke it down, every week. This is how much we need to gross a week to be able to take this business to the next level. And that's something that we sat down, we did it on paper, we figured it all out, and we did that. And now we've worked hard to bring it to the next level, which is to add a full-time employee. So we did the exact same thing. We sat down and we said, to add a full-time employee, their payroll, but not only their payroll, the workers' comp, the payroll taxes, the added insurances, all that, how much more do we need to grow to be able to say, hey, I can hire you 40 hours a week and provide you with that work all winter long. So one of the things that we did was we looked at it and said, boy, it would be nice to have this full-time employee, but in order to do that, we need to find a way to pay them all winter long. So one of the ways for us in the commercial landscape world to pay an employee all winter long is to have some signed contracts for the winter. So basically what this commercial contract is is a contract with, whether it be a commercial entity like a store, or you could even use it in residential world, where the people will say, we will pay you X amount of money every month to deal with the snow that comes down on our property. So that's what we did. We sat down and we worked up a couple of these contracts. We got some. And when that happened, I was able to tell Owen, hey, all winter long, we've got you covered. And sometimes we'll be doing stuff we don't feel like doing, cutting wood, things like that. But other times, we're going to be going crazy plowing snow. So rather than being envious of somebody else having commercial contracts and envious of somebody else having an employee, we looked at it, we said, boy, an employee would be great. What do we have to do to be able to get an employee? So now this falls back to you as the business owner, you as the entrepreneur. You are the flux. You're the one that all of the weight of everything falls on. It's all on your shoulders. So one of the things that's really hard with building a business is actually building it, getting to the point of being able to add an employee, because we have a certain amount of money that needs to come in to pay our business bills, but also make it so that I get paid so I can provide for my family, Abby and the kids. The whole reason we're doing this is to provide for Abby and the kids. But in order to build to the point of being able to add an employee for, let's say, 40 hours a week, I don't want to have 60 hours a week of work and hire an employee 40 hours a week. Now I'm only working 20 hours a week. So that's not good either. So as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, all that falls on your shoulders. So as we were building up to the point of getting Owen to work for us, I was working 50 hours a week, then 60, then 70. Then I was working 80 hours a week. Well, at that point of working 80 hours a week, we were able to pull Owen in. He started working 40 hours a week, and that dropped that workload on me drastically. Now, there's some weeks that I'm still doing 70 and 80 hours a week, and we are building up to another employee. So there's so many different things that you have to figure out when you're the business owner, when you're an entrepreneur, you're just starting out. Find somebody who is in this same field that you want to get into, somebody who's willing to talk with you about it. And my best recommendation would be find somebody who is not going to be threatened by a young startup business. I don't mean that in a prideful way, but at some point where we are in our business life and with the name that our business has worked really, really hard to build for itself, we're not threatened by a young startup business, especially not one that's outside of our area. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit here. Last Saturday, or maybe 2 Saturdays ago, I spent, I think, about 6 hours in my truck driving around with a buddy of mine and his son. And they were riding with me, asking questions. And I actually brought them to some of the places that I work, as far as some of our accounts. And I showed them the accounts. I walked through things with them. And here's what to look for. Here's what to watch out for. Here is how I would bid this property. This is how much time I think it would take to do this, to do that. And I spent 5 or 6 hours with them just walking, talking, driving, answering questions. And I had a blast. A great time just helping them out as they are starting in the landscape world. Now, they've been doing it for a couple of years, and they're looking to expand it a bit more into an actual real business. So they're going from kind of a, something to stay busy on the side to where they want to pull it into being a real business. So I was able to sit down with them, go over a whole bunch of things, and hopefully give them some good pointers going forward. But as a young business, you might not be a young person, you may be a young business. So as a young business, find somebody who's been in business for a long time, who's successful, or at least appears to be successful. And as you talk with them, you'll learn whether they are successful or not. But find that person, pick their brain a little bit, have some good questions to ask them. And it's something that I did with somebody many, many years ago, and it still stands to this day. This particular gentleman was mowing in the neighborhood I grew up in, and I believe he only had 1 or 2 lawns in this neighborhood. And I remember talking with him and saying, hey, I'm planning on buying one of these zero turns. What can you tell me about the business? What do I need to think about? What do I need to look at? And it wasn't a long chat that we had, but we chatted for maybe a half an hour. And finally he told me, Tim, when you buy this mower, because at the end of our conversation, he knew that I was going to be buying one. He said, when you buy this mower, this lawn in your neighborhood that I was using the push mower and the tractor in that neighborhood, he said, this larger lawn, when you buy your zero turn, I will hand that lawn off to you. And when he did that, we kind of, nothing official, but we kind of had a gentleman's agreement that at that point, if he was already doing a property, then I wasn't going to bid against him. So that's a gentleman's agreement now that has stood for almost 25 years. I think it's been 23 years, something like that, since we had that little gentleman's agreement. And it's been something that's very important. And actually, a couple years ago, a customer that we were doing some work for called me and said, Tim, I really want you to mow the lawn. And I said, oh, I can't do that because so-and-so is mowing it for you. And I said, well, he told me he didn't want it anymore. So I called my friend and I said, hey, do you still want this lawn or did you want to give it up? And he said, no, Tim, I wanted to give it up. And it's kind of funny that you should call. I was actually wondering if you were still going to call. So gentlemen's agreements, really important thing to have. But chat with the successful guys or the successful women in this field, whatever field it may be, that you are choosing to venture into. And many, many times, especially somebody who's older and has years and years of experience, maybe they're not older, maybe they're in their 40s, but they've been doing it since they were a little kid, just like I've been doing it since I was a little kid. I've got years of experience of seeing all kinds of different things. And I'm more than happy to share some of that experience and give some pointers. And like I said, I had a blast riding around with my buddy and his son the other day, just showing them different things and asking questions and answering questions and listening to them as far as what they wanted their business to be, and them listening to me as far as, different answers to the questions that they were just firing at me. So those are my thoughts on business envy and how to be successful with starting this business. Adding employees, the weight on your shoulders, yeah, it's a lot. And I'm going to add something here that my grandmother used to say. She used to say that, and I don't remember it maybe as vividly as I should. She's been gone for a little while now, but she used to say something along the lines of, if you smile every day at work, your day gets better, something like that. And I'm sure my mother would actually remember the exact quote that she used, but it's something that I try to take into my daily interactions with my clients, with Owen, my employee, or with anybody that we're going to deal with that day. Is a little bit of smiling, a little bit of happiness is going to help everyone around you, and it's going to help make you more successful. I know that's off on a little rabbit trail, but we took a spin through the cemetery today and looked at some headstones, and that just kind of reminded me of her and something that she used to say. So you smile a little bit every day and try to convince yourself that you're happy with whatever this choice that you've made for work is, and it'll go a long way. So thank you for watching from 8 to 38, the Chronicles of a Young Entrepreneur. Again, we're doing these videos now every 2 weeks rather than every week. And I'm looking for some new topics and some new subjects to cover for those of you who are interested. So if you leave a comment below this video, that would be great. And I'll try to tie that in the next couple videos. So again, thank you for watching. Have a great day.